Hello, welcome back to A Spiritual Ascension, my own 5-year journey, where I'm telling my entire story from April of 2020 to April of 2025, and what happened before, what happened after, and everything that happened along the way. When I left off, I had told you that I had stayed in an apartment with my friend who had been helping me out since the start of my journey. I think it was May 2nd, he had made contact with me. And understanding too that there's going to be people that come into your life who you kind of maybe don't think have any type of will play a big part. You know how they say what's they saying, people come into your life for a reason, a season, whatever it may be. And even though I had met him 13 years before, didn't think I would ever see him again. But I had a soul contract that he would come and show back up in 2023 to help me along my journey. So just look out for those people. You never know why a person is coming into your life. Okay. When I left off in the last video, I had said that, excuse me, sorry, he was upset with me because I wouldn't have um, a relationship with him, if you kind of understand what I'm saying, while we were there in the apartment. And I was holding out for my divine partner. And um, the last one I talked about having these illusions of thinking that sometimes we need to separate our mental thoughts, um, what is true reality, and sometimes what we have kind of made up in our mind just because we're so much into that 5D subconscious layer that sometimes it's hard to bring ourselves out of that 5D consciousness and kind of dig back earth and dig back earth, dig back into that earthly realm of the 3D and separate, there's a separation of the two, but also the combining of the two. So living kind of in that 4D area. And hopefully you understand what I'm saying there. Um, so he had kind of left me out on the street, and I ended up at one of the libraries in Brooklyn. One thing I've been talking to you guys too a lot about homelessness, and something I didn't know before because I didn't spend a lot of times in libraries before. But you'll notice that homeless people will go and kind of congregate in libraries. People can't really put them out unless they're, doing something wrong, or um, sometimes it's that they haven't been able to bathe or anything. So the odor can become pretty strong. And I know I've seen people be put out of library situations because of being homeless, and other patrons there kind of complaining about it. But if you happen to go to library during the day, especially during the summer, you will probably see a lot more homeless people, which I didn't really even realize before. I think that's another thing that kind of needs to be addressed as far as we're going through this big situation within, the United States, as far as what to do with our homeless population is kind of expanding in such a way with these tent cities, in the bigger cities. I think LA, they were showing a lot of these tent cities. Down in DC right now, they're kind of wanting to do away with these homeless, you know, have kind of congregated in certain places. And it's really, like you say, in many instances, can say it's always the fault of the person. Like so many people come into homelessness um, out of just bad circumstances. And as you know, my story, I had no idea that I would ever be homeless, you know? All right, so getting back to being in the library. I think the library closed at maybe 6 or 7 that evening. And a couple days before, well, not a couple days, when I had landed in New York City that evening, my friend had sent me like $25 or something like that. So I still had some of that money, just a little bit of that money. And as the time is getting closer to when the library is closing, I'm like, oh my goodness, now what am I going to do? I don't want to be out on the street in Brooklyn, you know. When I lived in New York, I had lived in Manhattan and I also lived in Westchester County. And like I knew those areas like the back of my hand, but I didn't know Brooklyn at all. So I was kind of getting fearful. Okay, it's going to be getting dark. Where am I going to go? So the crazy idea came into my mind. You know, I had reached out to my ex before, you know, he had provided money for me to get a hotel um, room. And, you know, he had also told me that he still loved me. Here goes the illusion, right? Um, so I'm thinking, well, maybe there's a possibility that, you know, if I reach out to him again, he'll help me out. Um, so, and he had already, like when we were dating, you know, he already had asked me to move in with him at that time. And, you know, that's why when everything kind of fell apart and this, if you want to say karmic or this other party person came in to our relationship, I was like so thrown back because I was trying to get back to New York, and now this relationship was so meaningful to me. Like this was my partner, and this is the person who even said to me, like, I'll move to New Hampshire, Maine with you. Like anywhere you are, I want to be. And like I was so deeply in love with this person and knew that they were supposed to be my divine, you know, counterpart. So I ended up taking the train subway from Manhattan up to, yeah, up to all the way up to Westchester. And I don't know, I think I had to take a bus then, which I never used to do when I lived in Westchester. I think I had to take a bus just to keep it cheaper than getting on the train from Manhattan to like from Grand Central into Westchester because I only had so much money. But once I got to Brooklyn, I mean, I'm sorry, once I got to Westchester where he lived at, I didn't have any. I had, oh, actually, I had a little bit of money left, just a very little. Um, I went when I got off the train or bus. I forget exactly how I got there, to tell you the truth. I don't know if I did take the train up. When I got off, anyway, I was back where I had lived before I moved to New Jersey at the start of the pandemic. And night had settled, and so it's getting dark now. And I went and I walked around where my old apartment was because I hadn't been there now in 3 years. And it was kind of sad, like going back there because I thought eventually I would get back. to, living in that area again. And so finally I got on my nerve and I called him, and he lived, about 5 minutes away from where I was. It's so funny, when I lived there, I hadn't, even though we lived in the same town, I didn't know of him at all. So I ended up calling him, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "Hi." I said, I'm here, um, right in town. Um, I don't have anywhere to go right now. Like, could I stay with you for a bit? And you could tell he was kind of like, no, no, I wasn't prepared for this. And as I think I told you before, I think he ended up with that third party person, because every time I would talk to him after that, he always seemed to be leaving his apartment and going outside to talk. So, I could tell this was happening again. And he's like, "No, no, I can't." And I was like, he's like, where did you sleep last night? And I was like, I said, I was in Brooklyn. He goes, "Well, can't you go back there?" And that's when, boom, they had this awakening. Okay. You want to talk about awakenings, because you're going to have awakening after awakening after awakening. Um, there was this moment of saying, "Oh my God, like this was all an illusion. I've been holding on to this person for the last, it was 2 years then, for the last 2 years, hoping that, this is my divine partner, that I'm supposed to um, eventually be married to this person, that he was going to leave this karmic situation." And it was like, I think there's a verse in the Bible that says, like a dog returning to its own vomit, that I was returning to something that I should have gave up a long time ago. But that is the thing about illusions. And now we hold on to them and hold on tight. And pretty soon that bubble was burst. And I was just, wow, kind of sat back. I can't believe this. Like, I've been holding on to this for so long. I'm embarrassed telling you guys this, but I'm telling you this just for your own benefit too, as you go through your journey, that you're going to deal with illusions. And it's just because you're in such a deep subconscious 3D, I'm sorry, 5D state, that it's sometimes hard to separate reality from what's not real. So anyway, I end up walking down to Dunkin' Donuts that's nearby, and I sat there, and I think I bought a donut or something like that, because I hadn't had anything to eat all day. When he left me, my friend in Brooklyn, like I hadn't had anything to eat. We left that morning, and he just like left me. So I hadn't eaten anything all day, and I had enough to get like a donut. So I'm sitting there in Dunkin' Donuts. I think that one was open pretty late, but I'm still saying, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" And like my wheels start turning, and I'm saying, "Okay, well, I'm up here in Westchester County. I could probably tomorrow go to social services and see if I can get like emergency housing again." Now I'm back in New York, and I know my way around there. And um, I'm just going to have to you know, start from scratch again. And all of a sudden my phone rings, and it's my friend from down in Brooklyn. And he's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "You didn't care about me, like, 12 hours ago." And he's like, "What are you doing? Where are you?" Like, I'm up in, Westchester. And he's like, come back to Brooklyn. And he's like, meet me on the train at the train station and we'll go back to the apartment. And I didn't have enough money for the train or the subway, so he had to end up sending me money just to have enough for that. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like it was such a dramatic change to everything I had had in my mind. But it was also a releasing because my destination was to get to the New Hampshire, Maine border. But I thought I was bringing this ex along with me, that we were going to end up going together. And even though whatever he was going through at that time, and if you know something about like the divine um, twin flame type of relationships, it's about like a divine female, divine male kind of come together and they're like so much in love, and all of a sudden this karmic from his past or a new person or whatever comes in and tears them apart, and he goes off with the karmic, and the divine feminine is left devastated, but she has so much hope that the divine masculine one day is going to come back and they're going to be back together. And that was my whole illusion. And so that's why I've done some videos talking about twin flame relationships. And although I do believe in a divine male, masculine, divine, I shouldn't say male, I'm sorry, divine masculine, divine feminine relationship, I'm hesitant to call it a twin flame because that term has just been so misconstrued over and over again. So if anyone just happens that's not even spiritual or whatever, and hears that term and it's like, oh yeah, me and my boyfriend are twin flames, like, so that's why I kind of don't like that term because it's just been used um, like pop culture has grabbed onto it and just totally taken it out of context. Anyway, went back down to Brooklyn. He was there waiting for me. And we went back to the apartment. And it was now around probably almost midnight when I got back. But being thankful to him that he was there, even though I still didn't know how all that was going to go with between him and I. Um, since he was looking for something more. But just being so thankful and letting him know that I was so thankful for him being there. Um, and knowing that the divine had sent him at the exact time of my life that I needed him and that he showed up. So make sure that you're thanking the people who show up while you're on your path, even though they may not understand why you're thanking them, you know. So, profoundly, but it's really intense when um, what's going on and you know why the other person's there for you. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.